Welcome to Young Asia Television.
Presented by the National Science Foundation of Sri Lanka.
Hi and welcome to Mihimadala, a program where we learn to understand nature, protect the environment and deal with natural disasters. Stay with us.
නිල් පැහැයෙන් හැඩවූ එකමලොවක් නැත්තේ ගහකොළ මල් සුසැදී පනනල රැඳි සුරැකී ජීවිතයේ පිපිරෙන්නයි ගිනි කඳු ඇත්තේ ගලායන්ට දිය මං ඇත්තේ මද සුළඟද රළු විය හැක්කේ කඩා වැටේ උල්කා අහසේ
සුබාදාමෙ මේ සියලු රහස් ගැන
දැනුවත් විය යුත්තේ විද්‍යාවෙන් තේරුම්ගෙන ලෝකය ජීවත් විය යුත්තේ මිහිමඩල.
Today on Mihimadala we discuss a topic that has special relevance for us here in Sri Lanka. But before we get to all that, let's try understanding our planet a little better.
Among an infinite number of galaxies in this universe, the Earth we live in is situated in one called the Milky Way. The Earth is made up of several layers. The surface layer is known as the Earth crust, beneath which is the mantle. This can be further divided into upper and lower mantles. At the center of the Earth is its core, which can be divided into an inner and an outer core. The crust is divided into seas and land. This crust and the upper mantle make the lithosphere. This is divided into several plates that move in the top part of the upper mantle, which is in liquid form. This movement, caused by the circulation of convection currents created by the Earth's interior heat, makes the crust move sideways. The result of this was the making of the Earth's plates and oceans, which are constantly on the move. So in a way, we are living on a moving surface.
On today's program we focus on a natural disaster that has had a profound impact on all of us here in Sri Lanka.
The memories. How it began. The destruction. The signs.
In December 2004, on the morning after Christmas, massive waves swept ashore along Sri Lanka's southern, eastern and western coasts. They left much destruction in their wake, claiming the lives of thousands of our country's people and leaving hundreds of thousands more displaced.
The sun rose on the 26th of December 2004, just like on any other day. Being a Sunday and Boxing Day at that, most people were at home. Some were out visiting friends and relatives and generally going about their day-to-day business. All of a sudden, a most unexpected thing occurred. The sea began to recede, but soon returned with monstrous fury. Most of us did not know what a tsunami was or how to read the signs and take precautions. This resulted in about 40,000 Sri Lankans losing their lives and hundreds of thousands more being displaced. Solidly built houses were easily washed away without a trace, along with boats anchored in harbours, trains, buses, and even vehicles that were on the move were just scattered like a bunch of toys. Now we realize that if we had more knowledge about tsunamis, we could have minimized the damage. Many of those who lost their lives in the disaster might still be with us today.
The impact of the tsunami continues to be felt today, as many thousands of Sri Lankans are as yet unable to rebuild their lives and livelihoods. But while it is important that we continue with the recovery work here in Sri Lanka, it is just as important that we take some time out to learn a little bit more about tsunamis, what they are, how they are formed, how to read the signs that one is approaching, and how we can take precautions.
The sea is very quiet at the moment, yet that can change in an instant. It can get violent in a number of ways. During a particular time of the year, the sea exceeds its ordinary level of violence. We call it the off-season, and no one goes down to the sea during the off-season. Tsunami waves, though, are much bigger than even the biggest waves we experience during the off-season. How does a tsunami wave form? Well, it can happen for a number of reasons. Massive landslides transformed into currents, sea slides within the ocean, undersea volcanic eruptions, asteroids falling into the sea, and sea quakes in deep sea. Any of these situations causing a sizable vertical movement of a mass of water can generate a tsunami.
When the water moves vertically upwards, it carries forceful kinetic energy to return to its normal status and strike a balance. This energy transforms into potential energy. After transforming into potential energy, what does this force do? The energy is carried in the form of waves. We call these waves tsunami waves. Let's think of this as the seabed. The earthquake occurred beneath this. The earthquake can occur in a place like this. We call this the epicenter. This is where the motion begins. This is where the energy is released in an earthquake. The energy released in turn causes the tectonic plates to shift. It can be vertical or it can even be downwards. The magnitude of the tsunami depends on the magnitude of the quake. Another factor is how deep below the sea the quake occurs. The deeper the quake, the lower its impact on the surface. The lesser the depth of the quake, the higher its impact on the surface. So these are the factors that influence a tsunami, although not all earthquakes cause tsunamis.
විද්‍යාවෙන් තේරුම්ගෙන ලෝකය ජීවත් විය යුත්තේ
The 2004 tsunami disaster is not one that we in Sri Lanka are going to easily forget. Its waves of destruction swept most of the country's coastline, and the damage it caused, both human and material, will be felt for many, many years to come. Let's now try to understand this natural phenomenon a little better.
A little off the coast of Indonesia, a shifting of the Earth's plates gave rise to a series of earthquakes. One particularly large quake was the cause of the tsunami waves that battered the coastlines in its path, including those of Bangladesh, Thailand, Indonesia, India, Sri Lanka, Maldives and Seychelles, spreading out even as far as Africa.
The surface of the Earth is broken into several pieces which we call plates. These plates are in relative motion. If you look at the Indian Ocean, there is one known as the Indian plate. Sri Lanka belongs to this plate. There is the Australian plate, the Philippine plate, and in addition to these, between them lies a small plate called the Burmese plate. This is quite a complex situation. These plates move in different directions. The main cause of the earthquake in Sumatra is a collision between the Indian and Eastern Burma plates, which has been occurring for quite a long time. It is as a result of this great force of energy that the quake in Sumatra occurred.
Besides the initial tremor, these movements of the plates caused many smaller scale tremors known as aftershocks. Aftershocks were felt for about a month after the large earthquake, and many feared that another tsunami would be formed. But for a wave to reach tsunami proportions, it usually takes a quake with a Richter scale reading of over 8 points. However, earthquakes caused at a lower depth between the earth plates can form tsunamis with even a 6-point reading. The 2004 Asian tsunami was triggered by a quake which measured 9.3 on the Richter scale.
Ordinary waves caused by winds don't have a long wavelength. It is only a few meters, but a tsunami has a very long wavelength. At average depth, it could be about 100 to 200 kilometers. As it nears the coast, the length could be about 10 to 15 kilometers. The wavelength of tsunami waves are a lot longer. This is also the reason why it possesses massive strength. Normally, the ocean is very blue. When a wave breaks, it is foamy and white. But with tsunami waves, the sea becomes dark and murky. Most of the time, it is grey or brown. Sometimes, it can be a dark yellow because the wave comes with a lot of sediment. It is very different to the regular foamy wave. The coast has been subject to huge erosion because of the tsunami. When tsunami waves come ashore, erosion takes place. As it moves back, it is reversed. In this way, heavy erosion takes place. 1, 2 or 3 meters of the coastline has been completely washed away. The previous coastline has been pushed several meters into the country because of this erosion process. In some places, this could be 10 meters, in some places 50 to 60 meters. This happens during high tide. The water level rises and falls. When the water level rises, the previous barricade that obstructed it doesn't exist anymore. So what happens is that the water directly enters the country from the eroded areas. If there is wind during that high tide, the height of the wave rises. As a result of this, a larger quantity of water can enter the country from those places. This is why there is constant flooding after a tsunami. The Viharamadevi story refers to a tsunami during that time. No one yet has analyzed whether this was a tsunami or not. History records that about 9 villages in the Kalani kingdom suffered floods.
විශාල වශයෙන්ම ගම්මාන 9ක් විතර යට වුණායි කියලා මුහුදු ජලය.
We are yet to find out whether this was really the result of a tsunami.
කියන එක ඇත්තටම දැන් අපිට සොයන්නට සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙනවා.
There is evidence that in 1833 a tsunami was caused by an earthquake. But we have no Sri Lankan records to check whether this had any impact on us.
1861
Just like in 1861 and 1883.
ඇති වුණා කියන තත්ත්වය තියෙනවා. නමුත් ඒකෙමත් අපිට
However, records show that the tsunami caused by the eruption of volcano Krakatoa affected Sri Lanka. And there are records on which areas were affected and to what level the water rose.
යම් යම් ප්‍රදේශවලට කොහොමද බලපෑවේ කියලා. කොච්චර ප්‍රමාණයක් මුහුද ගැලීම් සිද්ධ වුණාද? අත් වශයෙන්ම කියනවා නම්
Actually, in Hambantota and Arugambe, water reached a height of 2 meters. One person was reportedly killed in Arugambe due to the tsunami.
මැරලක් තියෙනවා. ඒ සුනාමිය නිසා. 1881
On the 31st December 1881, an earthquake near the Nicobar Islands caused a tsunami.
නිකෝබා දූපතාසයේ ඇතිවෙච්ච භූමිකම්ප
This reached Sri Lanka. It had been about 1 meter high.
මීටරයක් වගේ උස ප්‍රමාණයකින් තමයි ඒ වෙනකොට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ.
That earthquake had been felt throughout Sri Lanka.
එහිදී තිරුකනාමලවරාය
A certain amount of flooding had taken place near the Trincomalee port.
1941 ජූනි
In July 1941, an earthquake near the Andaman Islands caused a tsunami. It had been felt slightly in India and Sri Lanka's east coast. So this is what we know from history.
අපි ඉතිහාසයේ දන්න දේවල්.
History has shown that the location of an earthquake is likely to be the location of a similar quake a second time. A place where there was an earthquake in 1861 experienced another in March 2005. According to geologists, there is another location nearby which also experienced an earthquake in 1833. This could well be the place where a large earthquake takes place again in the future. It's lovely to watch the sea lapping up on the shore, and most of us really enjoy being by the sea as long as it stays fairly calm. However, when a tsunami occurs, the sea changes dramatically. Let's listen to the experiences of some who witnessed the tsunami firsthand.
අපි දැල්ලා දාද හිටියේ.
We were pulling in our fishing nets. We were loading nets for the second time. After a while, water came in like it does at high tide.
Initially, it was a small antinode, about 1 meter high, but that could also cause a lot of damage. Waves have antinodes and nodes. If a node comes before an antinode, the sea moves backwards. If an antinode comes first, the sea floods in.
After a while, the water level rose significantly, up to this level. The people started running around in panic. After a while, it completely receded.
When a small wave comes, let's say that people ignore it. But subsequently, if the sea is receding, that means a tsunami is going to follow.
The water came in again. Houses in this area were damaged.
If the tsunami waves are higher than 1 meter, the water will certainly travel a long distance into the country.
The sea receded again, even further.
If we study what has happened in other countries within a time span of about 20 minutes to half an hour, the sea has receded.
Water receded up to about 10 to 12 meters and then disappeared completely.
This is one of the signs of a tsunami reaching the coast. If something of this nature comes, a bigger wave could follow. So it is very important not to panic and make a firm decision. We have a few minutes to move to safer places.
After a while, I saw a mountain of water. There was no time to do anything.
Usually, when a tsunami occurs, several large waves could strike. This often occurs within about 10 to 45 minutes, but the situation could also remain dangerous for 2 hours or more. But there are precautions we can take to protect ourselves from a tsunami. We could create an early warning system, build taller buildings along the coast, or build houses as far as possible from the sea.
You must try to reach safe places as soon as possible, and also to work very calmly without panicking. Before running, there are few essential things that should be taken, specifically some water, items like milk for the baby. It's also good to take some Panadol tablets. The other important thing is to carry a radio. When you have a radio, you are aware of what is happening elsewhere. First of all, you have to try to make your way to higher ground. If there is a tall building nearby, you should try to go there. Furthermore, you could estimate how far the tsunami will travel and try to move as far away from the sea as possible.
Deep
at sea, the wavelength of the tsunami waves is very long, but the height is less. The lower the depth, the higher the wave. Deep at sea, the height of the wave is less. This is the reason for the wave to grow when approaching the coast. If there are boats or ships, instead of panicking, they should be taken further into sea. For example, deep at sea, the tsunami was about 50 centimeters, which wouldn't have a significant effect on a boat. Tsunami affected people are now together. Someone must guide them in the right way. People must be educated that way. They should know what steps to take and where to go in an emergency such as this. If there is an emergency injury, where should the injured be taken? When tsunami water collects in lagoons, specially trained swimmers and people like that must discuss how to rescue injured people who are swept into these. Specially trained swimmers and people like that must discuss how to rescue injured people who are swept into these. Japan has an excellent communication system. When an earthquake occurs, they locate its origin. If it is in the ocean, they immediately send out a warning. They have a warning system. They collect information from this and alert the relevant areas through the media. The Japanese have been acclimatized to this. In Japan, tsunami signs clearly indicate which direction and which height to proceed to. There are strong and tall buildings where you can find shelter without panicking.
Natural disasters occur in various places across the globe all the time. We can't prevent them, but we can learn to deal with their effects. It is important that we learn how to harness the potential of things like information communications technologies and other scientific advancements to protect our island and its people. Thanks for joining us today on Mihimadula. We hope you'll join us again next week when we delve once again into the fascinating world of science.
Presented by the National Science Foundation of Sri Lanka.